All right, we're going holding by the Book of Leviticus Chapter 17. Again, we're going to start a new chapter here. After we finished Chapter 16 last week. Again, we're on holding by Book of Leviticus Chapter 17. We are in verse 1. All right, Torah says, Torah here says, Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe. Lamor, God spoke to Moses saying, verse 2, Daber el Aaron vel Bonov el Kol bnei Yisrael, v'amarta lehem zeh davar asher tzivah Hashem lamor. So here was the Torah saying. So the Torah says, speak to Aaron, to his sons, right, i.e. the Kohanim, and all the children of Israel. Right? You're going to speak to everybody. You're going to speak to Aaron, speak to his sons, and say to them, this is the matter Hashem has commanded, saying, and I guess we'll do the third verse as well, just to see what we're talking about here. Verse 3, it says, Ish mibeish Yisrael, asher yishchat shor o kesef o chesef o eitz lamachane, asher yishchat michutz lamachane. So the third verse is, any man from the house of Israel will slaughter an ox or sheep or a goat in the camp, or who will slaughter outside the camp. Right? So we have to see what the difference is. But that's what we're talking about. We're talking about slaughtering animals. What happens if you slaughter in the wrong place? Right? Essentially, you slaughtered in the wrong place. But again, what does the Torah say? So the Torah says, speak to Aaron, speak to his sons, all the children of Israel. Say to them, this is the matter God has commanded. Right? No doubts over here. Right? Who's doing the talking? God himself. Right? Like most of the time. All right? Speak to Aaron, speak to Moses, speak to the children of Israel, etc. So here, the Torah says, speak to the children of Israel. Say to them, this is the thing that God commanded. Right? This is what God commanded over here. Now, what's it talking about comes on Ibn Ezra. Well, Ibn Ezra says, because these are the ones who shechted, who ritually slaughtered for the Jewish people. Right? Ritually slaughtered for the Jewish people. Okay. And he says that if they did it, within the camp, right? They're allowed to kill the animal, right, within the camp. Then they should be allowed to kill the animal outside the camp, right? Depends how far, depends where. And the Ibn Ezra then says, this is dependent, obviously, it's based on Mikdash, right? If there's a temple, you slaughtered in the temple, right? Animals were slaughtered, different sacrifices, whatever those sacrifices were. But nonetheless, Ibn Ezra said, any place, not just in the temple, right? That the temple had to exist, but also in any place that was close to Jerusalem. Right? In other words, it had to be close. How close? Good question. Right? But Ibn Ezra here says that we learn this out. God spoke to Moshe. It's a tradition that in Jerusalem they're also allowed to kill animals. Question is where? Right? That's the question. And even if you tell me, it was a faraway place, a faraway place over here, maybe they still could do it. Right? Because the Torah says, Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 21, it says that I can't eat the meat in exile, right? So it can't be that far. Right? Obviously, it can't be that far in kill an animal. Right? So in any case, Ibn Ezra says the animal has to be killed in a certain place. Right? Within certain parameters. It can be within Jerusalem, close to Jerusalem, but it can't be that far out. Right? What exactly is the amount? Good question. Right? It's a good question, but he says, first of all, you have to have a temple in existence. And you can kill these animals sacrifices, let's say, even around Jerusalem, not just in the temple itself. There's some things, obviously, within certain areas of the temple that you're allowed to. Outside that, you might be liable for death penalty or being spiritually cut off. We're going to see. Right? We're going to see. But even Ezra seems to say that even close to Jerusalem should be okay. So says the Ibn Ezra. Comes on the Ramban. Comes the Rav Nachmanides over here. And Nachmanides says, what's going on? There's a warning. Yeah, what's the warning? The warning is that a person, that Kohen, is going to sacrifice where in the tent of meeting. So they have to be careful to sacrifice not outside that area. Right? So now I have to see what's going to answer. And even Ezra says even close to Jerusalem, but he says outside that area it should be forbidden. It's also a warning, right, to Israel. There's someone who's not a Kohen or a Levite that's going to bring God's name there. You're not allowed to kill an animal outside themselves. Meaning that within the area of the Beis HaMikdash, within the area of the tent of meeting, that's okay. Outside of that, seemingly against what the Ibn Ezra says. Right? We're going to have to see here. But Ibn Ezra says even close to Jerusalem. Now, the Ramban does not entertain that possibility. He just says you're not allowed to bring and sacrifice outside this area. So what does outside that area mean? Anywhere outside. That's what it sounds like. Doesn't mean close to Jerusalem. Doesn't sound like it. Comes on the Ramban further. And the Ramban says, okay, let's explain what's going on. The Gemara says, Gemara in 16b, the Gemara over there says, really, the Jewish people shouldn't be allowed to eat meat. So all the vegetarians got to jump up and down and cheer. They're going to be all excited. Why? Because really, we should all be vegetarians. Right? According to the Torah, go to Genesis. Yeah, what do we eat? Fruit and vegetables. We're allowed to kill animals for meat. Right? We're allowed to kill them, to eat them. Right? The ones that are permissible. Right? So really it's forbidden. But God saw that they're going to want to eat meat. Right? At some point in time in history, they're going to want to eat meat. Right? So here the Gemara says, really, meat was forbidden in the desert. What did they eat? What kind of meat did they eat? They ate shlomim. They ate certain sacrifice. Right? They ate a certain sacrifice that went on the mizbeach, that went on the altar. Right? The korban shlomim. Right? What was the korban shlomim? Good question. What exactly was it? It was a peace offering. Right? But there's, what was it exactly? Someone made a vow. Right? Someone made a vow. And they went through the vow. They did what they were supposed to do. Right? It's one of the sacrifices. Right? So there's a difference of opinion what the word shlomim actually means. So if you look back, Leviticus chapter 3, verse 1, Rashi brings two opinions. Either it spreads peace in the world, or it brings peace to the altar, to the priests, to the owners, meaning everyone enjoys from eating that sacrifice. Right? So Rashi brings this from the Medrash. Right? Brings it from the Medrash based on the word shlomim, which means peace. What's the root of the word? Shalom. Right? Which means peace. Right? There's another explanation. The Rashbam, Rashi's grandson, also explains it means he vowed and needs to pay back. Lishalem. The word shalem means to pay. Right? Even in modern Hebrew, the word shalem means to pay. So it's a form of payments over here, meaning the payment of the vow. Right? A person took on themselves a certain vow, so they got to pay now. They got to pay whatever that vow is. So, shlomim, let's make clear, even though it's sacrifice, right? A shlomim, in general, nothing to do with sin. Right? Nothing to do with the absolution of sin. Right over here. I.e., it's all about peace. Peace found in the world. Right? God's not angry. Someone who had to bring the sacrifice. Yeah, let's say. And in Deuteronomy chapter 27, verse 7, it says, you sacrifice their shlomim, eat them, rejoice before the Lord your God. Yeah, by King Saul, Samuel chapter 1, verse 11, chapter 11, verse 15. Right? They offered sacrifices of shlomim before the Lord, and Shaul and all of the men of Israel had a great celebration there. So again, peace offering, right? People ate of it, right? People rejoiced, so to speak. Other obligations are there for what? Other obligations can be there for atonement, right? But this obviously, this obviously is not. Now, different types also, right? One is Thanksgiving offering. One can be, again, for a vow, free will offering, etc. So, whatever, different types here. Different types of shlomim. So what's the point? Right? What's the point? If it comes along the Ramban, and he says, even though they weren't really allowed to eat meat while they're in the desert, they're only allowed to eat these peace offerings, these free will offerings that went on the altar, right? Therefore, anyone who's going to kill animals for this, there are only three types of animals, right? There's only three types of animals you can eat from over here, and that is an ox, a goat, and a sheep, right? Those are the main animals that are sacrificed. I guess someone's going to say, come on, there are other sacrifices. There's a mincha offering, right? That's not an animal, right? Not an animal per se. It's flour and other things, etc. But main offerings over here come from one of three animals, right? Either a goat, a bull, or a sheep. And where did they bring them? Where were they sacrificed? They are sacrificed where? At the beginning, at the opening of the Olam Moed, tent of meeting. Right? So then they sacrificed them, and they sacrificed fats, because you're not allowed to eat the fat or the blood. That went on the altar. The other parts of the animal you're allowed to eat. Right? So they ate the meat like they were commanded. And if they sacrificed it somewhere else, so the Ramban says liable for being spiritually cut off. Now you have to remember one thing: Kohanim are in charge over here of doing all the ritual slaughter, right? Whether again it's a sin offering, whether it's a free will offering, whether it's a burnt offering, any of these offerings, who's it done by? Kohen, right? It's got to be done by the Kohen, and everything that's done on Yom Kippur. We spoke about that quite a bit in the last chapter. Who's that done by? The high priest. Right? All that is done by the high priest. Right? So here the Ramban says there's an obligation. The Torah says you got to shecht it, you got to ritually slaughter it in a certain place. If you go outside that certain place, what's the liability? Death penalty. Right? Sorry, spiritually cut off. So just learning last week, a few weeks back, that even by the Levites had different jobs. Some of the Levites were in charge, of guarding the gates. Some of the Levites were singers, right? They sang in the temple. Now, what would happen if one did the job of another, right? One family is supposed to sing. Let's say they want to help their other friend by guarding the gates. They want to exchange or take over what they do. For whatever reason, not allowed to, right? Not allowed to over here. Why? Because the Torah says that, if you're given a certain job, that's your job. You don't change it. You don't exchange it. Even the other person warns you to, so the person's not God. Torah has explicit rules. Torah doesn't change. Can't do just whatever you want, right? In other words, a Levite cannot do what another Levite does. They don't all do the same thing. And you see, when they carried the ark, or they did other things when they were in the desert, certain families had were given obligation to carry the ark. Others carry the vessels, different things. Yeah, some were holier than others, or considered holier than others. Carrying the ark is a huge thing. One of the things Korach did. Right? So it's hard to imagine if he's on such a high level, why did he make such a big mistake? But we've spoken about that. But the idea is that God singled out different families for different things. Right now, could a person say, hey, it's not fair? Why did that family get that? Yeah, why don't we get that? Why can't we hold the ark? Yeah, jealousy. Mishnah Pirkei Avos says, I'll get there when I'm on 102. Mishnah Pirkei Avos says that honor, desire, and jealousy can take a person out of this world. Some of the commentaries there say absolutely literally could kill you. See what happened by Korah. Killed him and 250 great men. Right? Totally destroyed him. So it's very hard to understand. But what do I see? What do I see like that famous song? You can't always get what you want. Right? You got to do what God tells you to do, period. That's what you got to do. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no changing it. Right? You're going to say, what's the big deal? Someone, watched the gates, and someone who sang. So one did the work of the other. So, you say, well, maybe it's not such a big deal. Why would I think it's such a big deal? And the answer is because God says it's a big deal. Because he's the one declaring the law. He's passing it down through Moses, giving it over to us. So a Kohen can't do what a Levite does. Levite can't do what a Kohen does. And a Levite can't even do what other Levites do if they're singled out to do something specific. So what do I have over here? When they sacrifice the way they're supposed to in this case, for Shlamim, for this peace offering, free will offering, whatever type of it was, it says if you checked it in the wrong place, you ritually slaughter it in the wrong place. What's the penalty? What's the penalty? Being spiritually cut off. Right? So a person will say, well, I don't get it. What's the big deal? Right? What's the big deal over here? Spiritually cut off? Right? Sounds pretty harsh. Yeah. Remember one thing. The Kohanim are singled out by God himself. That the Jewish people are chosen by God. We chose him. He chose us. And God singled out the Kohanim. Right? God singled out the Kohanim. They're special. They give the sacrifices. They teach Torah. God singled them out. Now today, there are certain things Kohanim can't do. We don't have a temple today. Can't bring sacrifices. Right? But they still have the upper hand in something. Comes to reading the Torah, Monday, Thursday, or Shabbos, or even on a fast day, who gets called up first? The Kohen, then a Levite. And if there's no Levites, the Kohen gets called up twice for the first two. And then anyone else can get called up after that. I mean, anyone who's a Yisrael. Not necessarily, there's no Levite there, so it doesn't matter. So anyone else is a Yisrael. If, let's say, if three men that ate bread together, who should bench? Who should say grace after meals and lead it? A Kohen. Right? We try and help Kohanim in different ways. If possible. Okay, but that's about it. So here in Israel it might be a little bit different. Certain things with fruits go to Kohanim, other things, whatever it may be. But in general, they're the ones that gave the sacrifice. They're the ones that that taught Torah. So they were they're the ones teaching, and they're the ones doing sacrifice. So if they were the ones doing sacrifices, they're the ones teaching. Okay, today who are the Kohanim? They're the rabbis. In every generation. But, once the temple's rebuilt, so you have Kohanim again. We're bringing certain sacrifices, okay? But today, there are only certain things. One thing a Kohen can't do. Also, he can't go to the cemetery, right? Can't be by a dead body, right? He can't make himself more impure, even though we're all in the state of impurity. 100%, we're all in the state of impurity, right? So if that's the case, if there's no one to bury the body and there's a Kohen there, so he has to bury the body. Yeah, but we never get out of the state of impurity. Okay, right? Even going to the mikveh doesn't help for that impurity. Yeah, but at the same time, for a Kohen, he's got added holiness. He doesn't go make himself impure, right? We were in a state of impurity anyway. That doesn't matter. A Kohen's got an added level of purity. Whether you like it or not, that's what God said. There are certain people a Kohen can marry. Yeah, and certainly the high priest, could marry. So there are limitations, right? There's also that today. A Kohen cannot marry a convert, cannot marry someone who's divorced. He can marry a widow, right? But he can't marry someone who's divorced. Can't marry a convert, right? There's extra level of holiness here. Even if a lot of other things don't apply. So what's the answer? It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter in the sense that God singled them out. So if God singled them out, person can say, I want to be a Kohen, I want this and I want that. Well, who cares what you want? Nobody cares what you want. No one cares what I want. God made it clear. God made it very clear, right? He made it very clear, that they're different, right? They're 100% different. No question about it, right? He made it clear. Definitely made it clear. Right? So people are going to complain, like, oh, today it's not fair. Totally not fair. Yeah. Why'd you pick Aaron and Cohen? Because God said so. But Kohanim so they have extra obligations. 100% they have extra obligations. Yeah. There are limitations who they can marry. Doesn't say by other people per se. It says by Kohanim. I mean, obviously, a kosher Jew cannot marry mamzer. Mamzer can only marry someone in the same union, right? As a child that is from a forbidden union. So mamzer can only marry someone of that union or what? Or convert. Why? No genealogy. It's a blemish. There's a blemish on that mamzer. So the mamzer we mentioned before never gets fixed up. If that mamzer marries let's say a Jewish slave, which everyone's told me, I don't know if it's still true, according to international law, only in Saudi Arabia you can acquire a slave. So don't call me on that. I don't know if 100% is true today. Maybe it is. They told me, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago that was the case. Could be. That's not the case today. I don't know. But if they would marry a Jewish slave, then that child's not a mamzer. Does not fix up the mamzer themselves. It'll fix up their children. So you got further going to say, convert, what am I, second-class citizen? Maybe, right? Maybe. Why can only be someone in the same union or a convert? Because what's the problem here? What's the problem with a mamzer? There's got a problem with genealogy. You can only be with someone of that same union. Yeah, so regular Jew, proper Jew, no problem, right? No issues with genealogy and all that. So you can't marry that person. No matter how much they love them, doesn't matter. Can't marry them. Why can't he marry them? The blemish genealogy. A non-Jew, okay. Someone will tell me, come on, wasn't there Solomon on Sinai? Yeah, it was. That's what we hold, because no non-Jew would ever come to Judaism if their soul wasn't at Mount Sinai. It makes no sense. One example I always give. Imagine a non-Jew gets to synagogue on Sukkot, right? He gets there in the middle of Hallel in the morning, middle of all those Thanksgiving Psalms that we say on every holiday and on Rosh Chodesh. All of a sudden they say these people, they take their lulav, right? The palm fronds, the lemon on steroids, i.e. your etzrobe, myrtle leaves, right? Your hadassim and your willows, right? And your what do you call it? Arabas. Forgot the name for a second. Yeah, so now you get all four species. So all of a sudden they walk in the synagogue, right? And all of a sudden they see people going like this. They're shaking like this. They're shaking like that. They're shaking behind them. They're going to say, what planets I drop off of, right? So even a Jew knows what it is. They've heard of it. Most Jews have heard what a lulav is, what an esrog is. They've heard of it, more or less. They may not know, what it represents. Okay. But while, a non-Jew comes into this, they watch what happens and they're like, what's going on? And people have more intention, less intention, whatever it is, and they're shaking these things. Yeah. So why would they have any connection to it at all? They wouldn't, except for the fact that their soul was at Mount Sinai, so they're drawn to it. Even though everyone's going to tell me most people I deal with is 95% come out of Christianity because they saw it didn't make any sense and it was totally illogical. Okay. But even so, what happened to everyone else? What in the world happened to all the other Christians out there? Totally been brainwashed. No question about it. They're told not to question. They're told that they don't believe in JC, they're going to fry in hell forever. A very good deterrent. Very good deterrent. And most of them are ignorant, don't know anything about their own religion. Yeah, so they keep them ignorant. Right? That's the whole point. So why don't more people come out of it? Very easy. Very, very easy. Believe in him, I don't have to do anything else. Right? And if you did something wrong, a little bit of confession, few Hail Marys, you're good. Yeah, it's all about responsibility. It's called, in Kaufman's language, in the vernacular, it's called pass the buck. That's what it is. Pass the buck. Right? So my point is, a non-Jew would never come into it. Unless their soul was there at Mount Sinai and got messed up in the process. What does that mean? Assimilation into marriage. How does that soul, that Jewish soul that was once Jewish, how does it become non-Jewish? Oh, good question. Very good question. That's called Kabbalah 101, 101A. Right? No question about it. But not so hard to understand through intermarriage assimilation, or, even let's say what happened to a lot of the Jews in Spain. They were hidden Jews, so to speak. Otherwise, they would have been killed. So they were these crypto Jews, these B'nai Anusim, as we call them. Okay. But someone on the outside, this wouldn't make any sense. Most of this stuff wouldn't make any sense, at all, except for the fact you have a connection to Mount Sinai. Yeah. So now, so a non-Jew is going to say, hey, if I convert, why don't I have the status of 100%, of a Jew? You have the status of a Jew. There are certain limitations, right? No one wants to hear this, but there are certain limitations. Can't do anything you want to do, right? Doesn't make you full, makes you a Jew, yes. But there are certain things that are limited, right? They may, a few things they may be limited in. Now, that's the same thing. That's a similar thing. I'm not a Levi, right? I don't come from the tribe of Levi. So I can't do what a Levite does. Let's say the temple existed, right? Today it doesn't make, much difference. But let's say the temple existed. I can't do what a Levite does. Even if I have the greatest voice. I can't sing. Can't sing with them, right? I can't watch the gates with them. I can't do what a Kohen does. Not allowed to do what a Kohen does. Now, I can jump up and down and scream and say, hey, I could say, like I always say to my father, well, as a memory, if you would have paid enough, I would have been a Kohen. You would have paid enough, but you're too cheap, so I didn't end up a Kohen. But he can't do what a Kohen does. So you can say that's discrimination. Yeah. Did I ever complain? I mean, other people complain, hey, I want to be a Kohen, get called first. Would have been prestigious, get called up first. Called the Torah first, big thing. Right? Big thing over here. Right? I would definitely say, why not? Why should everyone be given a chance to be called up first? Yeah, everyone can make that claim. I want to be called first. I want to be called second. Right? So what's the issue? The issue is a hierarchy. Right? I have the Kohen, I have the Levite. There are certain things they can't do. Certain things are forbidden to do. Right? Certain things, Yisrael can't do. I can't do what a Kohen does. Can't do what a Levite does. Yeah. And if I didn't live in the land of Israel, many other things I couldn't do. Okay. Not about discrimination over here. Yeah. We all, I'll give an example. Let's say, well, that's really by a Cohen. Let me think. Who's the example? I want to do something the Cohen does. Yeah, not allowed. There's the whole question. If let's say I have the requisite ability to kill animals, and now I want to go in the temple and kill an animal, am I allowed to? You're liable for death penalty. Yeah. I can be better than the Kohen. Yeah. Maybe my expertise is a lot better. So you're saying, so why don't you give them the ability to shepherd? Why don't you give them the ability to do ritual slaughter so the animal can go on the altar through you? A little bit of prestige. Because you know what you're doing. You're a world-class expert, so why not? Why not? You're not allowed to. You get the death penalty. Why so severe? Why would that be so severe? What, I'm taking away from the Kohen? What, it's going to be an ego issue for the Kohen? Not going to be an ego issue. Right? We're commanded to do different things. Yeah. I don't come from that tribe. I'm never going to come from that tribe. Right? No, my family's not from that tribe. Period. That's not going to happen. Do I feel like I got gypped? I mean, in theory, not true. Because we all have different roles. Men have certain roles. Women have certain roles. Women don't have the same roles as men and vice versa. That's why women are exempt from mitzvahs that are bound by time. They are totally exempt. Right? There's good reason. There's absolutely good reason for them. Right? Because they have different roles. Now, someone will say, what if a woman doesn't have kids she has to deal with? She have an obligation to pray? Sure. Once a day, some say twice a day. Yeah. But someone will say, well, what if they're older? What if, they're not having kids? Kids are grown up. So if they have the same exact obligation, they have to pray with, they have to pray with a quorum, with the minions. So what would we say? You got an obligation, carpool, find a babysitter, do something. Women have different obligations. They don't have the same, right? It's a big misnomer because a person comes from a democratic country. And even if they're not in a democratic country, but they think it in a democratic way, they say everyone's created equal. Isn't that what the Declaration of Independence says? Everyone's created equal. Not true. People have different roles. It's not a question of, one is better than the other. They're different, right? So a great rabbi once speaking to a bunch of feminists, a bunch of, women feminists. And he says, okay, let me ask a question. Is there any difference between men and women? So now, this is going back 25, 30 years. Yeah. So today might be a different issue, right? But we'll take it back 20 years when things were a little bit normal, more normal than today, right? So yeah, so is there any difference between men and women, right? So these big time feminists say, no. I said, okay, let me ask the question again. Is there any difference whatsoever you can think of in the world that there's a difference between men and women? Any difference? Well, women can have children. That's a difference. Men are never going to have children. No matter what happens, men are never going to have children. That's a difference. Right? They're different. They are different physiologically. They don't think the same way men do. I don't care if women are in corporate America. They don't think the same way. They can be trained. They can certainly be trained to be more like men. True. And men can somewhat be trained to be, more feminine in different ways, but good luck with that and different things. But at the end of the day, we think differently. We do not think the same, right? There's a reason, technical reason, but there's a reason that women cannot be judges. That has nothing to do with knowledge. Women can have more knowledge than men, right? You can say, there are certain judges. What about Devorah? Okay, good question, right? That's different. A different being altogether, different creation altogether, right? But that wasn't the norm by any stretch. Someone had that type of knowledge. And she would have that type of knowledge, technically, yeah, it should be all right, in theory. In theory. But what's the issue? what's the issue? If a person's guilty, they come in front of Beis Din. They come in front of rabbinical court. 3 judges. They come in front. What happens? What happens? Person's guilty of stealing. So what happened? Bring in witnesses. They got this person. They caught him. Caught him 100%. Right? There's nothing to talk about. Right? Open and shut case. So what's the verdict? Guilty. Right? We'll make it easy. Everyone agrees. Got all the proper evidence. No problem with giving testimony. Guilty is charged. Very good. Now, what if the person claims, you don't understand, my family was starving, this other family has plenty of money. I did it for I did it for my kids' sake, and if I could return the money, I would. Under the circumstances, the person's saying, cut me some slack. Look what's going on in my family. How can I watch my kids starve? You're right, I'm guilty as charged. 100%. Guilty as charged. Why did I steal? What was my intention in stealing? Maybe they'll say my intention was really to give it back when I had money. Okay. But simply, what are they saying? My intention was, couldn't watch my kids starve. Right? A real tearjerker. Right? Again, we're not saying he's lying. Saying he's telling the truth 100%. 100%. So a real tearjerker. Now, you got 3 men sitting there. What are they going to say? And I'm a guy. What would we say? Guilty. We'd say he's got to pay. Right? It's time for the Torah. He has to go to someone's house, be a slave for stealing. We don't care what his intention was. 100%. There are things we may care in different circumstances. In this case, we don't care what the intention was. Guilty is charged. 100% guilty is charged. Right? He'd be sold into slavery if there was still slavery. Right? In order to be fixed up. But he's guilty. Any of the men going to whimper and say, no, you got to understand. Look at the circumstances. Look at the person had a hard lives. And his parents abused him psychologically, and he had other issues, never got over certain things, and this is what happened. A guy's going to look at this person and say, okay, very good, you're guilty. Now, let's say you had a woman there. No offense to any women who are listening here. Women are much more emotional, right? This is something everybody knows, yeah? Can a woman be as hardened as a man? Yes. But is that her nature? Not her nature. 100%, it's not her nature. Yeah. So women, again, one possible explanation. There are other technicalities. Women are not necessarily looking at this thing practically. How are they looking at it? They're looking at it emotionally. So, judges in many ways, when they cannot be emotionally involved. There are laws. I just spent a year going through these laws, the laws of judges. If one of the litigants standing in front of the judge did a favor for them, and the person feels like he owes the person, then he can't judge the case. Why? He's got a bias now. Why does he have a bias? He's got a bias. The person did something good for him. If he can get that bias out of his head and look at him like he's guilty, and the other person is the same, okay. If not, he can't judge the case. Cannot have any emotional attachment at all to the case. Otherwise, you have to take yourself away. So someone could say, so we'll take a woman to say, I'm not emotionally involved here, right? I'm totally not emotionally involved. Yeah, so maybe in theory, maybe that works, maybe. But in general, how do you take emotion out of a woman? You make her into a man. That's what you do. You think, can men be emotional? Yes. Can they be very emotional? Yes. Are they the same as women? No, they're not. Right? It doesn't matter what you do to your body. They're not the same. They don't think the same. Right? Read the book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Right? Yeah, they're different. They're different physiologically. They're different emotionally. They look at things differently. that's okay. They can complement one another. They can also be diametrically opposed to many things. Okay. When a person's married, okay, you gotta, discuss issues, see things from the other person's perspective. By a guy, a lot of times it's cut and dry. It doesn't matter what happens, right? We don't care what happens in the past. Oh, he came from a broken home. Is he guilty? Yeah, we'll use an example, right? I hate to use this as an example. I've used it before, but I'll use it again. We'll take someone like Mike Tyson, not the most virtuous of all men, right? Let's just say. He went to jail for rape. Anyone who remembers 15, 20 years ago, right? Whatever it was. He went to jail for rape. Now, why? What happened? Right? So I can't imagine why they put him on the stand. But what happened was this woman's, I don't know, they're in a hotel room. This woman's there at 3:00 in the morning in this hotel room with him. So they put him on the stand and he says, what do you expect? Everyone knows I'm an animal. Guilty. Right? That'd be the most stupidest thing I ever heard. But that's, got him convicted. Now, even if that's his nature, does he have a right to rape her? And let's say, for argument's sake, she wasn't interested. That's not what she wanted. Let's say he got convicted. Totally got convicted. He's in jail for a number of years, because of it. Right? So why do I mention it? So the idea is what? You have something like that just because a person, and he grew up in a messed up house, no question, right? Boxing was very good for him, right, in many ways. And, they grew up on the streets. Yeah. So even if that's the case, does he have the right to do what he did? But people might say, look how he grew up. Look what he went through. What could you expect? Oh, yeah, tell that to her. Yeah, doesn't matter. She's with him or not at that time, in the middle of the night in a hotel room. So what? I mean, it looks bad. I would agree. Definitely looks bad. But if there's no consent, there's no consent. They have a right to do what he does. Some people might say, gotta understand. I mean, not in this case, probably. Some might say, come on, look at how he grew up. And look what happened. Okay, it's a terrible thing that happens. But come on, can't we just, look the other way? This is more egregious, I would agree. Right? Probably a bad example. Yeah, and no one's going to use this idea of logic, right, in general for what happened. Okay, but at the same time, could emotion get involved? Emotion could get involved. Guys, emotional is not going to get involved because they're not as emotional as women. They're not going to feel sorry for them. They're not going to feel sorry for other people, right? They have to see it the way they see it. Are they guilty? They're not guilty. Sometimes things will be taken into consideration. That is true. That is true. But someone who's much more emotional, again, you can say it's all cliche. That's fine. People said a lot worse things about me. That's fine. Right? But, read the book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Yeah, read the book. Men, I mean, you don't need to read the book. You can understand. We're different. We think differently. We act differently in many ways. I'm not saying a woman can't be trained. Yeah, get women CEOs of companies and this and that, and they lose their femininity, a lot of them say, because they're in a man's world, quote unquote. Yeah. I'm not saying women shouldn't work and women shouldn't be out there. It's a whole nother discussion, but they become less feminine. Many women said that, right? Many women have said that. Now, could they change their outlook in different things because they've been part of that world? Sure. But does that change who they are? Take a cat, right? Experiment with a cat, right? Train a cat to walk on 2 feet, like to be a butler and to bring them food and different things. But you know what? A cat at the end of the day is a cat. How do they prove the cat is a cat? You take out a mouse out of your pocket, you put it on the floor, the cat drops everything, runs after the mouse. What about all the training? I really should be a, dog or cat psychologist. I think that's where the real money is. But okay, stuck doing this. Very good. But that's what a cat does. That's who a cat is. You can train a cat to do all kinds of things. Train a dog to do all kinds of things. It doesn't go outside its nature, right? As sophisticated as this cat may be, as intelligent as this cat may be, and whatever you train it to do, all the power to you. But you know what? A cat chases mice. You don't change who it is, right? No matter what happens, a man changes the way he is, or a woman, whatever, all this transgender stuff, it's who they are. They don't change. Doesn't change who they are physically. They're who they are. They put things on, they take things off. We're going to keep this clean. So what? Doesn't change it. Doesn't change their mentality. All these hormones maybe, but in general, it's who they are. Yeah, men are who they are, women are who they are. Can they change? In certain ways. But are they going to change to be someone of the opposite sex 100% and leave exactly who they are and how they were born? No, that does not change. Again, doesn't matter what you do to the body, doesn't matter how many hormones you take or hormones you don't take or whatever it is, doesn't change who you are, doesn't change the facts on the ground, right? So the point is, men and women are different. They're different physiologically. So again, it's not a leap of faith. Feminists will jump up and down and scream, right? And, and try and get me thrown off of YouTube over here, right? But what are they going to say? They're going to say we're exactly the same. Not true. Definitely not true. It's not a leap of faith to say if they're different physiologically, that they could be, in theory, they could be different spiritually, 100%, right? That's not heresy to say. It's just we don't have the same obligation. And so if we were equal in the eyes of God, not better, equal, then women would be doing the exact same things men have to do. They'd have to learn as much as men. They have to go to synagogue as much as men. All these things. Why are they exempt? Why are they exempt by mitzvahs bound by time? Because they have other obligations. More important obligations. Now, they don't have those obligations. Should they still be doing the same things as men? Not necessarily. Can they learn a lot? Yeah, 100%. Whatever they're allowed to learn. They want to be more spiritual. They want to do other things. Fine. Within parameters. But they're not men. That's what people make the mistake. And a lot of these women want to do things like men. People say I'm doing it for the sake of heaven. Yeah, maybe a few. I haven't come in contact with too many that are. Right? I know somebody that there's a woman who learns Gemara. She says, I'm not doing it to try to be like men. I enjoy the intellectual stimulation. Yeah, there are people like that. Okay. But from what I've seen, those are very few. The majority of people doing it, why are they doing it? Because they want to be like men. No different. 100% they want to be like men. Yeah. That's why they're doing it. There's just not. It's based on what I've seen. If women would keep the majority of mitzvahs they need to, and they knew them well, and they kept the big three, I would say Shabbos, kashrus, and need the laws of family purity laws, and they knew these things backwards and forwards, so to speak. You want to learn other things? We'll have a discussion. But most of these women can't even read the alphabet. But okay, why do they want to do it? Because they can, or because they think they can. Let's say there's a problem. There's a problem. Women are what's the blessing they make in the morning? They don't, we say, thank God we're not women. Why? Well, what's the context? We also say, thank God I'm not a slave. What's the context? Mitzvahs. We have more mitzvahs to do. So I say, thank God I'm not a woman. I can do more mitzvahs. I can pray every day, 3 times a day, and I can learn more. And I can we have more obligation. Right? A person will say, and conservative movement, they change some of these blessings. So the same, thank God you made me a slave. They say, thank God you made me free. What do we say by a woman? Shasani kirtso no. The blessing is you created me according to your will. Does that sound like we're degrading women? Some people say yes. Some people say, yes, that's degrading. God's saying they're created according to his will. What's his will? You're going to say God made a mistake? God doesn't know what he's doing? God, what does it mean, his will? It means his will for them is different than men. They're not the same. Right? It's clear they're not the same. If they would be, they'd have the same obligations across the board. Now, even though their mitzvahs bound by time, women can make a blessing on them. If you're Ashkenazi, they can shake a lulav, make a blessing. They can also shake a lulav even if they don't make a blessing. According to Sephardic people, no. Women do not make that blessing. They don't make the blessing sitting in the sukkah, right? But other things they do. So there's certain things that they're limited by. Yeah, at least according to Sephardic tradition, right? They can still do the same things. They can sit in the sukkah, even though they're exempt. Question is whether they make a blessing or not, right? The other things also. But if they have the same obligations, it'd be kind of hard. How would you run a family? How would you run a Torah family? 5, 6, 7, 8 kids, let's say. And let's say you had, you had 3, 4 kids on the age of 5. It could happen. I know someone now has got 4 kids on the age of 2. Under the age of 2. He had I think 2 kids, one after the other. They had twins within 2 years, 3 years, whatever. Okay. So you're gonna tell a woman like that she's equal to men? She got the same obligations, meaning that you're gonna have to go to synagogue and this and that. You're gonna have trouble getting up during the day and functioning. I'm not even talking about contraception and other things. Forget about that. What happens? Even in my case, I had 4 kids under the age of 6. You know what it's like having 4 kids under the age of 6? Trying to get them out and get into the daycare and different things. And I go to learn, and why was I always late or close to being late because it was hard. And like my wife will say, like during all that time, it's just a blur. She's just tired all the time. Yeah. So you're going to say that a person like that's got the same obligation? So let men have kids. Men would have kids. There were many kids in the world. Yeah, but without that, right? So that's not a possibility. So they have to be different. 100% they have to be different. They have different roles. According to Rev Eliashib, Torah giant to the last generation, according to everybody, he said women don't have, if they have little kids, no obligation to pray at all. None. Not in the morning, not in the afternoon. 0. Why? They're too busy doing other things. No, other people may say, they should try and pray if they can. He's saying they don't have an obligation at all. At all. Their head's not there. What about their connection to God? They're busy with other things. Okay, they also have a connection to God. They also have to keep Shabbos. They also have to keep festivals. Right? They also have to make blessings and all that. True. But to say they're the same and they should do the same things, come on. Right? So we don't claim Judaism is about equality. It has nothing to do with equality. It has to do with what a person's role is. That's the whole point over here. Right? I forgot how I got on to this. That's the whole point. A Levite cannot do what a Kohen does. A Kohen cannot do what a Levite does. A Yisrael cannot do what either does. Different obligations. Right? And if everybody be the same, God would take, let everyone do the same thing. Let the Kohen, the Yisrael, the Levite, let us all do the same. Right? 100%, let us all do the same. What would be the big deal? What in the world would be the big deal? We'd all be doing the same thing. Okay. But it's not the case. 100% it's not the case. Yeah. So here the Ramban says, I'll take questions. I see a bunch of questions here. Says that a Kohen himself, if he shecks in the wrong place, if he ritually slaughters an animal in the wrong place, he gets spiritually cut off. Because that's not what you're supposed to do. God gave ramifications. God told you what to do, when to do it, where to do it. You thought, I know better. I want to do it somewhere else. God says, no. Not at all. Not going to allow it. Right? Why? Oh, so that has to be understood why. But he's telling you over here, there are certain laws. And this is what you're obligated to do. And this is what you have to do. And you can't do just whatever you want. It's not about what I want to do, right? Korach made that mistake. Others made that mistake. Take it one step further. Right? So I'll take questions. Yeah, 1 second. That you take Achav. Mentioned this story before. God wants him to repent to do tshuva, so God comes to Achav and he says, "You, me, and Ben Yishai, son of Jesse, are going to stroll in Gan Eden in paradise. Very good." Achav goes. Who goes first? Imagine God Himself comes to you. You understand God speaking to you, and He's telling you, all three of us are going to stroll in paradise. Right? Can I smoke? Can I eat shrimp? Who goes first? Who goes first? God says Ben Yishai. King David goes first. And no, not interested. Does that have any rational explanation at all? God Himself telling you we're going to stroll in paradise. Me, you, and Ben Yishai, the son of Jesse, i.e. King David, one of the greatest people in the history of man. Who wrote the book of Tehillim? Divinely inspired. Can I smoke? What is Achav, a fool? Not a fool. He's not a fool, but guess what? What did Achav have bigger than almost anybody in the world combined? Ego. Or as we say here in Israel, ego. He's got an ego. He wants to go first. Right? That's how far it goes. That's how far the ramifications are. It's mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. You had no opportunity, to walk with, let's say, two of the Torah giants of generation. Yeah? And you say, can I go first? Can I go first? I laugh. I should be crying. I mean, this is how far bad character traits can take a person. You see, by Korach, he wasn't a fool, but he said, Moshe, you showed favoritism to your brother, right? I'm just as great. I saw saving the prophet's going to come out of me generations later. You showed favoritism, jealousy. He's one of the 20% came out of Egypt. He saw the miracles, Mount Sinai. He saw the miracles in the desert. You want to tell me jealousy? Hard to imagine. Hard to understand. Very hard to understand. Yeah, questions. Someone asked, when a person, 1 second. When a person, the question is, when a person repents, they do tshuva, what happens with blemishes on our soul? So when a person repents properly, and he gets atonement from God, and he gets proper atonement, so what happens? That transgression gets turned into a mitzvah, disappears. In other words, if a person, let's say, they had blemishes on their hands, and now they use certain ointment, whatever, and now the blemish disappears. So think about like that for your soul. Your soul has holes in it, right? For all the sins we've done, right? There's no question about saras. We spoke a lot about saras way back when in Parshas Tazria, Mitzorah, right? Leviticus 14 and 15 or 13, 14, right? Go to my channel, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, got a lot on that. That being said, what do I have? What do I have over here? You don't see saras today. If a person spoke Lashon Hara, you don't see any of these splotches on a person's body. And even if you did, it's not for that. We have no idea what it's for, right? But it's not for saras, right? It might be bacteria, it might be other things, but it's not saras. We don't see saras today. Oh, but it's brought down. Go a little bit deeper. It's brought down that what? Your soul. Your soul might be contaminated with it. When a person speaks Lashon Hara. Yeah. We don't see it. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. But when a person properly repents and God accepts that repentance, He takes it away. Right? He takes those blemishes totally go away. Now, we brought down before, there's a Kli Yakar. There's a Kli Yakar that says that how do we know? We could be OCD over here and say, maybe I didn't do full repentance. How do I know if I did full repentance? Bottom line is, we do the best we can do. Right? That's what God expects. The best we can do. If we do the best we can do, then God accepts our repentance. Now, the Kli Yakar says, but he's the only one that knows. No one else really knows. That's not very, in some ways, maybe not very comforting. Why? Because the person can say, how do I know I really repented properly? How do I know? You do the best you can. You can't psych yourself out. If you know you didn't do it properly, you got to do it better. Okay. We always have room to grow, but you drive yourself nuts. One of the reasons at the end of Yom Kippur, what do? We hear the shofar. Say Shema Yisrael. You say Baruch Shem Kavod 3 times. You say Hashem Hu Elokim 7 times. Right? You say that 7 times. Then you say Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Yimloch Li'olam Va'ed. God is King, was, will be, for all future generations forever. And then what do? You hear the shofar. That time, half an hour after sundown, 40 minutes after sundown, whatever it is, then the shofar blasts. And then what does it say in the prayer book? It says, you say, Shana Haba Yerushalayim. Say, Shana Haba Yerushalayim. And everyone sings, and people dance. People dance. What are they dancing about? They've been in prayer and fasting for 26, 27 hours. Got no strength left. Can anybody at that point right there really say their mind didn't wander? They did everything they absolutely should have. When it came to repentance, they absolutely have 100% a clean slate. Why do we believe that? We could drive ourselves nuts. I could drive everybody nuts. Why can we drive ourselves nuts? Because we can say, maybe I didn't really do it right. Maybe I have to work on some other things. Maybe, whatever. At the end of the day, we do the best to our ability. Now, why should we think God's going to, accept our forgiveness? Because again, if we did what we're supposed to do to the best of our ability, then God's going to accept our forgiveness. Now, could there be other things going on? I'm not worrying about that. We have to worry, did I do the best I could? Now, what's someone obviously going to say? How do I know I did the best? Maybe I didn't do the best. Maybe I only did 60%. Maybe I did 70%. So this is the work of the evil inclination. I'm not saying you blow it off. I'm not saying you don't think about it. What I'm saying is you got to be honest. You got to be honest. If you know you didn't do your best, okay. We can always say we have what to work on. That's easy. But the evil inclination will say, see, you didn't do it right. I know God's going to accept your forgiveness. Maybe you only got 60%. You have to work on other things. Okay, we have a lot to work on. Yeah, but why is it, what are we all, we're all caught up in the moment. In synagogue, we're all so tired, been in synagogue, all day, praying and fasting and bowing and all this, and all of a sudden now we sing out, we start to dance and we start to sing, think about it. Think about what you did, where your thoughts were during the day. Can we say 100% God's granting us full repentance? Yeah, if we have that mentality, you don't even go to synagogue on Yom Kippur. You just give up. That's what the evil inclination wants. The evil inclination wants to break you down, totally destroy you. Evil inclination wants to say, see, you really tried, but look, maybe you failed at this. Look, let's say you did. Let's say you did. You didn't do 100% what you should have done, this and that. So isn't it a fake? People say, come on, it's a fake. 100% it's a fake. Similar question. How can we have festive meals on Rosh Hashanah? Really, we should be fasting. It's Day of Judgment. Because we believe as it's brought down, God's going to give us a good judgment. Wishful thinking. Look at all the things we do, all the terrible things we do. How is God going to give us how can we feast and eat better than we normally do and have these festive meals when the book of judgment is open for these 2 days? How could you even eat? You should have to fast. Just the opposite. You should have to fast. Seemingly, there's 100% a contradiction. If the book of life and death is open in front of me, God says, I can eat. How can I eat like I never saw food before? How can I eat all these fancy things and whatever? Because there's an obligation to be to eat a festive meal. Aren't we kidding ourselves? No, we really want proper judgment. We really want a good judgment. We have an obligation, to have a festival. You can't forget about the seriousness of the day, right? That's for sure, right? But what's someone going to say? We're kidding ourselves. Because we're the same people we were before. How much do we change in the month of Elul? How much do we really work on ourselves? The evil inclination, very good at its job, does not need a recommendation from me. Not at all. Think about it. And then what happens after Yom Kippur? What happens? Let's say we get all excited. We have sukkahs and we're sitting in the sukkah and we sing and we dance and this and that all during sukkah Simchas Torah. What happens after Simchas Torah? You take down the sukkah. You go back to every day. How much do we really change? That's when the work starts. So the evil inclination says, I'll give you the month of Elul. I'll give you Rosh Hashanah. I'll give you 10 days of repentance. I'll give you Yom Kippur. I'll let you reach whatever level you want. Because after Sukkot, you want to sing and dance? Fine. I'll give you all of Sukkot to sing and dance. And afterwards, now you have to put it into the everyday. Now you have to put it into real life. Yeah, you had 40 days over here. Now the work starts. Then a person gets back in a normal routine. You don't have festive meals anymore. You don't have any holidays. Right? The month of Cheshvan is called Mar Cheshvan, bitter Cheshvan, because there are no holidays. Go to one explanation. There are no holidays. How do I keep that fire lit? Oh, that's a different discussion. That's a totally different discussion. But the evil inclination works you down and says, okay, now let's see. Now I'm going to have some fun. Let's see if you took on what you said you're going to take on and what you're going to do. So a person can have Chalishas Zadas. Person can say, hey, all the stuff I worked on just went out the window. I'm back to the same person I was. Wasn't that a fake? Isn't that what we always do? Most people, they just get back, they get lulled into sleep doing the same thing they did before. Maybe some more, some less. Maybe they feel more guilty, whatever. But aren't we going back doing the same things we did? It's also a fake. So why bother go through it? That'd be the question. Yeah, so Kli Yakar says, God knows what's in a person's heart. He knows deep down what's in a person's heart, what they want. So even if we fall a little bit short, God knows what we want to do. Now we have to go out and do it. Right? Spoke yesterday in Pirkei Avos. In ethics of our fathers, there's a disconnect between the mind and the heart. Yeah. The mind, even if the mind knows what to do and the right thing to do, the heart says, what are you talking about? Eat, drink, and be merry, lest tomorrow I die. That's it. And enjoy life. I want to do whatever the body tells me I should do. The mind's fighting against it. Constant battle. Constant battle. That's what we go through. So why do I say it's not a fake over here? If a person doesn't work on anything, they just go through the motions. Okay, that's a different issue. Person's working on themselves. They're trying, struggling, going through difficulty, but they're holding somewhere in the world. They understand, they have to make an effort. They have to try and change. Even if they fall short, that's not fake over. That just means we're lacking in ourselves. That means we're not upholding what we need to do. And we need to be better. For sure. For sure, that there's nothing to talk about. That there's nothing to talk about. Yeah. At the same time, what would I say? It's work. But we can't drive ourselves nuts and think, wow, maybe I didn't do this right. I do that right. And I should feel bad for this. God does not want us to feel like a piece of dirt every day of the year. Certain times, yeah. Certain times, we have to own up to what we've done. And yeah, it's hard to look in the mirror. But, nobody is really that bad. We may have bad character traits. We may do things we shouldn't do. Right? What does God want to see? And this is really the theme of Yom Kippur. Right? What does God want to see? God wants to see at least a person wants to be better. That's already a huge thing in this generation. Most people today catch a mustard relish on my hot dog, holding nowhere in the world. Someone who wants to change and they fall short, okay, they'll be held accountable. They'll be held more accountable. Why? Because we're holding somewhere where other people aren't. We want to be closer to the king. Very good. But it takes effort. It takes a lifetime of work. Even to take small steps. So we don't want to beat ourselves up on a daily basis. Yeah, I could have done this better. I could have done that better. You're right. And we should feel bad and we should work hard. True. I'm not saying whitewash it and just say, okay, chalk it up experience. tomorrow's another day. Okay, we got to make boundaries among boundaries in order not to do these things. That's what we have to do. And it's hard. And sometimes the person will say, I can't believe I just did this. I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I did the other thing. Okay. What are you going to do about it now? Right? That's really the question. What are you going to do now? Are you going to wallow in self-pity? And a person's going to say, wow, I can't do it. I feel so bad. And I feel like this, that. I can't get out of bed. That's what the Eitzar wants. That's exactly what the evil inclination wants. Or do you say, okay, going forward, what am I going to do? How am I going to become better? How am I going to get myself out of the situation? Right? That's what being introspective is. It's not like, okay, I'm going to go on a diet. Very good. What are you going to do? I don't know. I want to go on a diet. Okay. And you doing anything to go on a diet? No, but it's a good idea. Okay, great idea. Doesn't say anything. Right? You're not working towards that. You're not showing anything. So here we're all work in progress. Yeah. So a person will say, but I make the same mistake again and again. Okay, let's get to the root of what the problem is. You have to get to the root. And now this is a hard thing. It's a very painful thing in a certain way. Why do you think this way? Why do you act this way? Now we could be programmed from when we're much younger and just say, what happens? What happens? We get in a lot of bad habits. Bad habits, very hard to break. I'm not going to say impossible, very hard to break. And if you don't work on it step by step, you won't be able to break it. You won't be able to change your mentality. I get this question a lot. How do I change my mentality from every day to Shabbos? When all of a sudden Shabbos comes in, it's sundown, right before we light the candles. Okay, now I have to stop thinking about every day. And now it's Shabbos. I have to think about the holy and the parsha and this and meals and whatever. Got to change the way we think. Changing the way we think is not easy. It's not easy. But at the same time, I would say it's such a breath of fresh air, right? One day a week, I don't have my phone on. One day a week, I'm not attached to my computer. One day a week, I don't care what's going on in the world, right? It doesn't matter. I'm tuned into what God wants. Now, can people bring up things on Shabbos that probably shouldn't be talked about? Yeah. Why? Because again, we still get caught up in the everyday, and sometimes things, get discussed that probably shouldn't be discussed on Shabbos. You can say, well, it's boring. You got to speak about other things other than Torah. Well, that's the whole point of Shabbos. The whole point of Shabbos is speak about Torah. Speak about the parsha. A million things to speak about. Parshas Pentecost, we just read, huge. Plenty of things to speak about. You can be there for hours. For hours. Whether you're awake or not, doesn't matter. But, plenty. Plenty of things for discussion. Plenty of things what to think about. Et cetera, how it relates to us. A lot of things. A lot of things. So, this is one of the more crucial things, and that is changing our mentality. Changing our mentality, overnight, no. The problem is people want things instantaneous. They want everything now. It doesn't work that way. It takes time. Everything we learn, building blocks, we mentioned before. But a lot of things you don't know. A lot of information you're missing. Okay, but it takes time. Like we always say. It's not going to happen overnight. And it can be a little bit of a grind. Day in and day out. I'm learning this, I'm learning that, I'm going back and I'm reviewing. And, some things are more exciting, less exciting, but the bottom line is you learn things you enjoy, besides what you're obligated to learn. That's how it gives you a bigger lift. Because if you learn things you don't really like to learn, not so exciting. But, there are things you don't like to learn that you have to learn anyway. Sometimes, let's say the laws of Shabbos, like I say, it's like, wow, it's so exciting. This and that is going to make you get up and sing and dance. Sometimes you see certain things that open your eyes. Okay. But again, knowing what to do is complicated. It's complicated. People like to learn new things. I get it. But if you don't review, you lose it. 100%. You will not remember. No question. You want it to be like it's in your pocket. Someone asks you, you can answer like that. Right? You have a quick answer. You know what to do, but that means you got to keep going over and over like the back of your hand. That doesn't sound so enjoyable. I mean, if you love Torah, then yeah, but the whole point here is, or one of the points is, that a person has to learn to think in a different way, to change that mentality. Does that mentality come overnight? Hell no. Why not? Because you got a lot of squeegee in the brain to do, right? It's part of my job. Make sure people don't think the same way that they used to. They don't look at things as, they don't look at verses the same way as Christians do, right? So you gotta think in a different way. You look at things a totally different way, and it's frustrating. The person says, well, I learned it this way once, or I learned it this way a lot of times, this, that, and the other thing. Okay, it's wrong, right? Got to start from scratch. It's a humbling experience. Okay, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So, God only knows if a person fully repented or not. We do the best. So again, the long answer is, you got to, think about what you did. Think about how you repented. And let's say, but you don't drive yourself nuts. If there's room for improvement, okay, we all have room for improvement. But we can't drive ourselves absolutely nuts, and say, well, maybe I didn't do this right, or maybe I didn't do that right. God's never going to forgive me. Let God deal with what he needs to deal with. Yeah, you need to deal with what you need to deal with. So the Kli Yakar says, and I mentioned this a number of times, I'll keep mentioning it, God's the one that knows. You know for yourself what you did. But again, you cannot say, it's forbidden to say, well, I could have done better. Maybe I didn't fulfill my obligation. And then you have an OCD problem, right? Obsessive compulsive disorder over here. You're going nuts. Really? Did I wash my hands the right way? Do I have enough water? Maybe I didn't use enough water. Maybe, again, you have to see what you did. You have to see what you did. Yeah, I'll give an example. I'll use myself as an example. So I have towels I wear during the week. I saw one of the strings a little bit frayed. One of the strings that, you have to wrap around all these other strings. So I said, I really have to check it. Just to make sure that, if the string's not long enough, then I can't wear it. So finally I decided, okay, I'm going to check it. So I started to take it apart. I started to take one string, one of these scissors apart. And as I started taking, one of the strings that you wrap around, all these strings is much longer than all the other strings. It's probably double the size of all the other strings, right? Because you need to wrap it around it, then you tie 2 knots and you wrap it around again, whatever, all these different things. So I said, okay, this looks like the string you wrap around, but, it seems like it might be a problem here. I don't know if it's fully connected. It looks like it's fully connected, So I said, okay, I have to check it. So I have to check it. So I said, if it's no good, so then I'll buy a string, I'll tie it myself, right? I'll buy, go to a store, buy a whole thing, I'll tie it myself. Then I'm not going to buy new towels for it. So, I have one for Shabbos that I use on Shabbos. I had this one I've had for years. So, anytime I had a problem, okay, so, I fix the strings, whatever. I didn't have this problem. So Murphy's Stein's law, what happened? So I started undoing it a little bit. Right, I started undoing it a little bit, and I saw, that this long string. I get this really long string. I said, okay, so I'm going to take this string out. I'll take out the other strings. I'll rewrap it. What happens? This long string snapped in my hand. So here I have this longer string. Now that's it. Now I can't use it because the string. So I said, okay, maybe. I thought to myself for a second. I said, okay, I'll undo all the other strings. Maybe the string's long enough. Maybe I could actually eke it out before I'd have to buy a whole new thing. And I said, let's see. But I looked at the string. I'm like, nope, not even close. Not even close. So, it's a good thing I checked it. I mean, I realized how really fragile it was. I didn't really, I don't think it was. I thought this other string, okay, if this other string was long enough to get to a certain point, it's still okay. All right, I could still use it. So I thought that even if it's short over there, there's still enough room. It's probably still long enough, it should be okay. But there was an obvious question, why was it detached from the other string? Right? So anyway, anyway, this string, as I was untying it, snapped. Totally snapped. Right? So it's possible. I can't use it. Right? I have to actually get a whole new string and have to retie it. Right? I took that string out. Right? And now I have to retie it. Okay. Yeah. This seemingly looked problematic. And it wasn't like, oh, maybe yes, maybe no. Okay. So I had to check, I had to verify. Right? I had to verify. That's something a person can see and a person can check. Right? That's something visible. Something that's in our hearts. We can, who knows the inner depths of our hearts? One of the 13 principles of faith. God knows the thoughts of men. So the innermost thoughts of man, God knows. So if that's true, I cannot drive myself nuts. If I did exactly what I was supposed to do, more or less, then I don't have to worry. Right? Then I don't have to worry. That's what I would say. That was my short, long answer. Someone asked, should shatnez, mixture of wool and linen, be checked in towels? No. Towels and bed sheets not usually made out of wool. Usually not made out of wool. If they would be, then then you would have to check it. But I don't think they are. I don't think they are. I could be wrong. Let me just see if that's true. There is wool bedding. Interesting. So I'm totally wrong here. If they are wool sheets, let me just see. I've never heard such a thing, but it could be. If they are made out of wool, then they should be checked. I have actually a friend of mine who checks. I could ask him it should be checked because you are getting benefit from it, right? You are getting warmed up by it, right? Can't lie on it, can't really sit on it, right? So to speak. So it should be checked. It should be checked. I don't think it's going to be a problem because I don't think they put any linen in it. Even if it says 100% wool, right? It's probably a non-issue, but probably should be checked. If people check sofas, if they're made out of wool, people have it checked because again, you're sitting on it, you're getting benefit. You're getting benefit from it. If I heard of it being a problem, no, but it's probably if it's made out of wool, I don't think it's going to be a problem with shatnez per se. It should be checked. It should be checked just to make sure there's no linen in it. The problem is it says 100% wool, but you can't believe it. There are plenty of suits that say 100% wool in it, and there's linen in different places. Right? It's harder to believe by, let's say, a bed sheet or, by towels that should be an issue. I mean, where are they going to put linen? I can understand by a suit. A suit or jacket, that makes sense because at different places they can put linen in. By buttons in the they check the shoulders. They check the shoulders for it. Different places. So that I could hear. Where they put linen in such a place. I mean, I have to double check if people actually check them, but in theory, in theory, it should be, it should be okay and probably should be checked. I don't know. It's hard for me to believe people actually check them, even if it's 100% wool. I don't think there's an issue, but I will double check that. I can definitely verify that if that is true. If that's practically speaking. In theory, gloves. You got wool gloves. Same thing, right? They protect your, keep your hands warm. Probably also should be checked. But like these type of things that really, chances are that a shatnez are like pretty slim. if not at all, so, definitely, I would say, I don't think people check them. I definitely don't think, wool socks people don't check. That I know. Hats, I don't think people check. Say ski hats or whatever, hats for the snow, against the cold. I don't think people check because it says wool, there's nowhere to put linen in anyway. So these things, I would say the same thing, but I will, I will verify that. I don't think they're checked, but I will. I have heard people checking, let's say, car seats that are made out of wool, or blankets, maybe sweaters for sure. That also. But anytime it doesn't say 100% wool, let's say in the sweater, it still has to get checked. We still have to get checked, but some of these other things, I don't think so. But I will verify it. And when it comes to towels and what was the question? Towels and sheets. I don't think people check them. I don't think people check them because I don't think there's any parmesanas at all. Even though it says 100% wool, it's not something put linen in. But I will definitely verify that. Someone here asks or mentions, can't mandate away difference between genders or update and do away with gender differences. All right, today I think it's different beast altogether. People tell you that men aren't men, women aren't women. People can be whatever they want. They can change whatever they want, this and that. But the Torah makes clear. There are differences. There are differences in genders, and because there are differences in genders, physically they're different, spiritually. But again, say that in public. It's a good thing I can say this now, right? Say it in public, though. They'll say, "Come on." Who says a boy 5 years old is really a boy, right? Maybe he's a girl, maybe, or vice versa, right? That's changing all the boundaries. All the boundaries whatsoever, saying that they're not who they are. Well, who are they? Well, they'll tell you who they are, right? Society will convince you who they are. That's insanity. That's total insanity. Someone asks, are fossils the animals killed in Noah's flood? I don't know. You got, some of them. Yeah, it's interesting. There are cases where you have certain animals, certain fossils they found that were in areas they never should have been. Right? They very far away. Thousands of miles far away. Where they really should have been. So many claim, the only way to explain it, is how do these animals trek thousands of miles away where they never were in the first place? Yeah. So yeah, you can answer that up by the flood. Again, I'm not gonna say all fossils. All fossils are, wherever they are, it's because of the flood. Some I think that is the case. That definitely is the case. Where they found, I forget, I don't know, it's a woolly mammoth, other animals, other animals where they find fossils where they were never known to be. They just told, unless you want to say continental shift and they walked across continents and different things and, whatever, you could make that claim also, right? In theory, could make such a claim. But, you'd have to come up with a very, very clever explanation how they end up thousands of miles away from where, wherever they were. Thousands of miles is a lot of land. It's a lot of area to cover, even for an animal. So, find an animal somewhere where it's really out of place, totally out of place. So, what other explanations are there? I'm sure science has some of their own explanations, how they could have ended up there. Who knows what, but yeah, the flood could be very viable, a very good explanation. Could be. right? Very well could be, because animals just don't show up anywhere. Animals are, even if they migrate to certain places, okay, question is how far, and if you're going to tell me like 10,000 miles away or 5,000 miles away, unless it's a bird, or something like that, you're going to tell me an animal, treks so far, and that's where they found it, where it was never before. That's, so that would be somewhat proof to, the flood, because if the animal was never there, then how to get there, right? If it never lived in that area before, it's not from that part of the world, right? Then you have to be a little bit creative to figure out, how that came about, where it came from. That's what I would, that's what I would say. Someone asks, biggest insult to women to say that women imitate men. Yeah. Curtains, I don't think you have to check either. Curtains, I don't think are a problem. But these things I will verify. The thing with gender issue is I mean, today it's a huge issue, right? But even even when I was growing up, way back when, feminist movement is a huge thing. It's a huge thing that women want to be like men. They don't want to be discriminated against. They want to make as much money. The whole thing years ago about in professional tennis, men made a certain amount of money, women made less, significantly less, right? So you say, well, isn't that discrimination, right? For sure, it's discrimination. Yeah, that there's no question. I'm not saying you can't have women athletes like today. I think they passed it. At least they passed one round of it. I don't know if they passed the entire thing, where any man who transgenders to be a woman cannot compete in women's sports. I can't even say that with a straight face, right? That because you have men, they're really men dressed up as women, breaking all kinds of records in sport. Especially like in weightlifting and other things, because they're men, right? No matter how you slice it, no pun intended, they're men, right? That doesn't change. That doesn't change over here, right? So, I understand. I understand women want to be the same, equal pay and different things. Okay, right? I don't have an issue with that. It doesn't bother me. Women should get paid the same. Why not? Certainly, tell me professional sports, men get paid 10 times more than women do. So yeah, I could hear that argument, but you have women that want to be like men, right? That's just what it comes down to. They're jealous of men. Why shouldn't they be men? Why shouldn't they be treated the same? Why shouldn't they have the same quote unquote rights? Because this is a God-given book. It's not about rights. It's not about what my right is. Right? It's about what God says, what God dictates our rights are, what we do, and who does what. I mean, you see a lot of these things in the Torah themselves, make so little sense according to logic, right? We just, read a few weeks back part of the Slukas. You got the law of the red heifer, makes no sense logically, right? The main mitzvah, it doesn't apply today, of something that's totally logical. Right, that someone is impure. He took this red heifer, took this this cow, never worked, totally red, no black hairs, no nothing, never had a yoke on it, none of this. You burn it up, Kohen puts the ashes on the other person. He becomes pure, the Kohen becomes impure. Totally logical, right? But a lot of the Torah itself is illogical. A lot of it's illogical. Yeah, but we still have an obligation to keep it. So, see, what we have to understand is that people want to do what they want to do, but it has nothing to do with Torah mitzvahs. When it comes to jealousy, and I want this and I want that, is that what God says over here? Doesn't say that. Right? A Kohen can't do what a Levite does. Levi can't do what a Kohen does. And different Levites can't do what either one do. They have different jobs. They have different roles. Men have different roles. Women have different roles. If everyone be the same, God would say everyone's the same. But you already see The Kohanim, the Jews are chosen among the nations. That's one thing. And the Kohanim are chosen within the Jewish people. They're the ones to teach. They're the ones to give the sacrifices. Anybody have a say? God take a survey? Survey says. God take a survey. That was Family Feud, by the way. Survey says. He didn't take a survey. God doesn't care. God says what he says. We have to keep what he says. That's it. Now, it's not about what we want to do. That's not Torah anymore. Right? That's not Torah anymore. People say, well, that's your opinion. That's what the Orthodox say. We're the majority. Well, yeah, all this. So what? So what? You can't do what you want to do. Sorry. Pork is not kosher. Can't eat it. What are you going to do? Can't mix wool and linen together. Forbidden. Yeah. Many things you can't do. Okay. You don't like it. So what are you going to do? You'll change it. I'll make it into my own mind. Right? Torah according to me. Imagine if Torah was according to me. I'll be dead. Right? Torah according to me. God doesn't care what we think. God's making whatever he wants. He's doing whatever he wants. That's it. He's making it clear. He's making it clear. Yeah, no question. No question at all. But it's not about what I do, what I want to do, what my obligations are. That's what he says over here. Cohen's gonna shack, he's gonna ritually slaughter in a different place. Yeah. Get spiritually cut off. Certain things Cohen does where he shouldn't do it, death penalty. Pretty severe. Right? You can't just do what you want when you want. Someone asks, crossbreeding animals does it include mixing two different breeds of chickens to make a hybrid? No. If we're talking about here, crossbreeding is like taking a donkey and a horse and making a mule. If I take a chicken breeding with another chicken, as long as we have a tradition that this chicken's kosher, then that's I don't think that's a problem. Right? I don't think that's a problem. I'll tell you what an issue is with. If you take a fish, let's say, and there's a problem. I don't know what type of fish it is. My Rebbe mentioned this many years ago. I forget what type of fish it was. But he said there's a type of fish on the market, or it's going to be on the market, that you have a kosher fish and a non-kosher fish. Right? Now, what makes a fish kosher? It's got two sides, right? It's got scales and fins. Scales and fins. Now, if it's got scales and fins, any fish that has scales will have fins. Yeah, if it has fins, will have scales. You don't ever find a fish that has scales, not fins, and vice versa. Right? That's what the Torah tells me. Now, what happens if I make this kosher fish with a non-kosher fish? Normally what we say is whatever comes out of a tamei animal, an animal is not pure, right? A forbidden animal or fish or whatever comes out of it is straight. Can't eat it. Not allowed to eat it. So what happens? I make a new breed. I make a new breed of fish, right? I take a kosher fish, a non-kosher fish, right? I take a shark with a swordfish, let's say. I don't know if they would ever mate, whatever it is. I take two fish that one's kosher, one's not. And this next breed that comes out, this brood or whatever that comes out is what? Has scales and fins. Now, what's the problem? Got a serious problem, right? Even though it's got scales and fins, anything that has scales and fins, even though it's genetically modified, it's got scales and fins, should be kosher. But I got a problem. Anything comes out from a davar tamei is tamei. Anything comes out from an impure animal is impure. Even if it's got kosher signs. Oh, big problem. Big problem. My Rebbe told me this many years ago. I don't know. I remember what happened in the end. It was a certain type of fish. Kosher fish was breeded with another fish that was not kosher. And now you got a whole breed of these quote-unquote kosher fish, different breed altogether. New creation. Who's it created by? Us. Us genetically modified mankind. That's who created it. That's a huge problem. That's a big problem. Yeah. Because normally I say, anything's got scales and fins, it's kosher. But I also have another Talmudic dictum, and that is anything comes out from something non-kosher is not kosher. So it comes out of this non-kosher fish, not kosher. How can I eat it? Even if it's got scales and fins. Good question. Yeah. This is for Torah giants to think about, not for me. Yeah, that's a big problem. So you say, well, it's a new breed. It's a different type of fish. Right? So you say, I got a new breed of fish. It's kosher. But I got a problem. I can't just say it's kosher. My problem, I got a lot of problems, but one of them is the fact that I have a Talmudic dictum here that no one disagrees with. That anything comes out from something that's impure, an impure animal is impure. Period. It's impure. Camel milk, can I drink it? Nope. Jew can't drink it. Even if he milked it, he can't drink it. Why not? It's an impure animal. We don't eat it. So whatever comes out of it, I can't eat. You know, and a person killed it, you can't eat it. Even if they shechted it properly. It's not kosher, period. So anything comes out of it, it's not kosher. So if that's true, what comes out of this fish isn't kosher. Therefore, even if I made it with a kosher fish, it's not kosher. Couldn't be kosher. It's got scales and fins. Problem. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. Tell you straight off. I don't know if we say, well, it's a totally new breed, and therefore if it's got scales and fins, it overrides. Or not, right? I don't think we hold this way. I think we hold that whatever came out, even if it's got scales and fins, you can't eat it. You can't eat it. There's specific definitions here. There's difference of opinion between rabbinic scholars. I'll just throw this out there also, and just confuse everyone. Outside of South Africa, there's a fish called kingklip fish. Now, the kingklip fish, difference of opinion whether it's kosher or not. Why? Because you don't see the scales on the fish itself. You have to scrape away at the scales to see it. Right? So some rabbinic authorities hold that if you can't see the scales of face value, not underneath the microscope, then it's not kosher. It's no scales. Others say, but if you scrape away, I can see them. So the question is, does that mean it's like it's there, you just can't see it, or like it's not there at all? See, swordfish, different issue. Swordfish, the conservative movement would say, even according to their quote-unquote halachic authorities, they'll say it's iffy. Why? Because swordfish really has scales. What's the problem? When it comes out of the water, it sheds its scales. Yeah, so we hold you can't eat swordfish. We don't hold it's iffy. We hold you can't eat it. Why? Because when it comes out, it doesn't have scales. It's not just it has scales in the water. It has to have scales coming out of the water also. So they say it's a little bit iffy. It's a question. Very good. We hold you can't eat it, period. Yeah, but there is, again, by the kingklip fish, different issue. There's also an issue, in New York, I don't know if it's still a case today, where people found, things in the water, right? Bugs, let's say, or microbes in the water. But you can't see them. Sounds kind of gross, right? They say you have to boil the water. Yeah, but you can't see them. So the question is, if I can't see them, does it mean it's not there? Or does it mean that it's really there, and I have to boil it or do whatever to make it kosher, or I can't drink the water? Yeah, that's all. There's no question with that also. So a chicken, again, there was an issue a number of years ago. There was an issue with a certain type of chicken. Yeah, there's a certain type of chicken called the brackle chicken, I think it was called. That I think was in Europe and different places. They wanted to bring it here to Israel. The whole question: do we have a Masorah, a tradition that is kosher? Say, but it's like a regular chicken. Yeah, if it's like a regular chicken, what's the problem? So, some said it was okay. Others said even in communities where this chicken was, not everybody ate it. Now, how would I? So the question is, how do I know I have a tradition? How do I know I have a Masorah, proper tradition, whether I could eat it? Question is, the people wherever that thing grew, wherever that chicken grew, right? The people in that community eat it, right? So in this, my Rebbe said no. So he and others, not everyone agreed. Difference of opinion. Like some people said a chicken's a chicken. Doesn't really matter. But he found out in certain places, I think one place is in Turkey where this chicken grew, where the chicken grows, or they grow this chicken, whatever it is, they, people in the community found out don't eat it. Yeah, not everybody eats it. Right? So therefore what? You don't have tradition. You don't have a clear-cut tradition. What my Rebbe says many times, you can't eat it. Right? You don't have a clear-cut tradition. We don't eat it. Yeah. So if it's, again, crossbreeding two different things, if they're two different things, yeah, that's forbidden. If it's two different things of the same thing, I don't think it's a problem. Right? I don't think it's a problem. With the chicken, you may get a stronger breed of chicken. If it's a kosher chicken, we don't have any issues. So yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. You should just know non-Jews not allowed to do it either. By the way, if they take, let's say, they crossbreed animals, or they crossbreed, let's say they take a peach and a plum and make a nectarine. Right? For a Jew, for sure, it's forbidden. For a non-Jew, also forbidden. But you ought get benefit from it. So even if a non-Jew did it, right? They took a peach and a plum, made a nectarine. Can I eat the nectarine? Yeah. If a Jew did it, can I eat it? Yeah. There are certain things that, even though it's forbidden, doesn't necessarily mean I can't get benefit from it. There are other things that are forbidden to get benefit from. It depends what it is. That's what I'd answer on that. Somebody asked, how did you debunk the claim Judaism took parts of the Epic of Gilgamesh? Well, it came first. They'll say Gilgamesh came first, right? Right. That's their, that's their, that's their argument. Yeah. So what's the answer? What's the answer? Well, then which came first? Right? Right? That would be the question. So you say, well, we got proof. Right? We got proof. We got proof of that, so to speak. That came first, maybe. Right? Maybe that's what you say. Yeah, it's a good question. So that needs further clarification. How would I answer it? I don't know. Right, I have to look into it. There is an issue. They'll say, right? They'll claim we got it. We got it from them, right? That is the, that's what they'll claim. But yeah, people say it's the same thing, right? Really, it's the same thing. Whatever. I have to look into it and see how to answer. See how to answer it. I'm not sure off the top of my head. Yeah. Any other questions? Someone asked before, 1 second. I just want to answer that as well. What about Jewish parents who provide and support, JC for their kids? Yeah, it's also a problem, right? Right. It's also an issue. Definitely an issue. Yeah. Meaning that parents can do all kinds of horrific things to their kids. One of them being not educating them the proper way. But it's even beyond that by educating them in a way that takes them away from Judaism. Yeah, that's also, that's basically has a story what the Torah says is a masis. A masis is someone who teaches someone to go astray for idolatry. It's idolatry. Right? So any parents who are messianics, and unfortunately there are plenty of Jewish messianics out there. Yeah, and they have their kids go in that path. Right? They have kids go in that path. Yeah, or they're associated, let's say, with the Reform movement, which their whole goal was to uproot Torah mitzvahs. Yeah, also bad. Also bad, but someone will say this is worse because this is having them go after idolatry. Okay. Right? This is someone going after idolatry. And they're invoking their children to do it. Yeah, it's also bad. There are a lot of things parents can do that are bad. For better or for worse. They can, psychologically abuse them. They can do all kinds of things. That basically destroy their kids in the process. I know someone of someone, I've been in contact with them for many years, but I do know someone who basically flip-flopped from a lot of different, religions. First, they want to be Noahites, then they want to go through conversion, then they went back to JC, then they kept going back and forth to different things. And what did that do? That messed up their kids in the process, 100%. 100% messed their kids up in the process. So, so the kids don't do anything. They're not Noahites, they're not Jews, they're not JITs, they're nothing. Because they jump from one thing to another and, obviously without any proper guidance, it got totally messed up, right? So the parents got themselves messed up, so what does it say for the kids? Well, it's a huge responsibility. A person has a family, you come out of Catholicism, or person, wants to learn more about Judaism. Yeah, there's a big responsibility, big responsibility to themselves, big responsibility to their kids and how they're going to educate their kids. No question. Right? No question about it. So, however, people would take it more seriously. I've just seen a lot of people take it in a way where they just do what they want, no matter how stupid it looks. They don't think it looks stupid. They think this has meaning. This has meaning according to me. This is, and it's stupid. There's no other way to say it. It just goes against everything. It's what my heart tells me. Okay. What your heart tells you, but it doesn't mean it's right. Right? Doesn't mean it's right by any stretch. So there's, I'll say like this, there's a big responsibility out there for anyone coming back to Judaism as a Jew, and any non-Jew coming out of Christianity or wherever they're coming from, either stay a Noahide or be or to go through conversion. It's a big responsibility. Right? There's no, and some people say, wow, it's such an awesome responsibility. It is, right? That's true. That's 100% true. I'll born Jew should look at it that way. Right? But it is a big responsibility. We do have a lot of obligation, and how other people view us and what we do and all that. It's true. 100% true. But, we have to do what we need to do. We have obligations. 100%. We have obligations. And, we're viewed a certain way. So all the more so, we have to be careful. And if God forbid, an Orthodox Jew does something wrong, there's hell to pay for everybody, because we should know better. We should be better. We should know better. But people make mistakes. Yeah, there's an evil inclination. People make mistakes. People don't do what they should. Okay. I'm not saying it's good. Just saying it's, we get judged to a higher standard, and as well we should. Because again, we should know better. We should take things more seriously. We should be more careful when we're out there. Sometimes, we forget, we're tired, we're this, we don't feel like being put on a pedestal today. We just, it doesn't mean it's right. 100% does not mean it's right. And the repercussion can be catastrophic. In a lot of different ways. Secular Jews who does something wrong is also bad, no question. No question, it's also bad, but it's different when they do something, when we do something, even though Jewish people get lumped together. Because there's a Talmudic dictum, all Jews are intertwined. Kol Yisrael Ravim, that was it. All Jews are intertwined. Yeah, you don't see that by any other nation, any other group. And that's only by us. So when we do something wrong, okay. Everyone is guilty. Come on, secular Jews, they weren't they weren't taught properly. They don't know anything. This, okay, it's also true. They'll be dealt with however they're dealt with. Jewish people in general will be held accountable. But when someone who knows better, see, this is where it gets a little bit dicey, as the English would say, right? Or a little bit dodgy. Yeah, the problem is we do something wrong. We know better. There's a lot more hell to pay. Why? Because we know better. We should know better. What about the evil inclination? What about falling prey to that? And all that? You're right. That's all true. 100%. It's all true. But at the end of the day, we're held accountable to a higher standard. What? I think secular Jews do things they're not going to be held accountable? Sure, they're going to be held accountable. Not to the extent that we would be. Because we know better. So a friend of mine would say, isn't it better not to know anything? Yeah. But if you have higher potential, God's going to nail you for that also. So you're stuck either way. Right? You're stuck either way. So, at any level, we got to do the best we can. So again, I didn't get that far in this Ramban, so we're on Ramban here. We'll have to take this up next week. But bottom line is, as we said before, can't always do what we want. Can't go outside our boundaries. Here, the Ramban is saying, yeah, you can always sacrifice in certain places, and if you don't, and you go too far out, liable to be spiritually cut off. Some will say for other things, death penalty. So you can't do what you want. Right? We're not allowed to do what we want over here. Whenever we want, there are boundaries, there are guidelines. We have to hold by the guidelines, we have to hold by the boundaries. Right? And we see, even if I would agree, a person will not be allowed to do whatever they want different ways. If you would show me you can pass that down to the next generation in a great way, good. I don't have any issues. I don't have any issues at all. Yeah, but it doesn't work. So if it doesn't work, someone will say, but who says it's supposed to work? Because the Torah says, right? We mentioned last week, or a few weeks, we spoke about the fact that verse 34, chapter 16, right? It's l'chukas olam. It's an ordinance for all generations, for all time. It's not just I feel like doing it, I don't feel like doing it. You got an obligation at all times. Yeah, it's a hard thing to do, but okay, that's our obligation. That's the way we have to see things. And there are repercussions, which no one wants to hear. People want to do whatever they want. Okay. But there are repercussions, right? We mentioned 2 examples. You have a woman who smokes crack, God forbid, when she's pregnant. Kid comes out deformed. The problem with the kid? No. But there's a reality. There's a repercussions. A mamzer, same thing. 2 people get together, not allowed to be together, create a mamzer, right? You can only marry someone in the same union, or a convert. There are spiritual repercussions. But see, people don't want to hear either. They just want to do what they want to do, and they want you to accept it. They want to ram it down your throat. Well, sorry to say, yeah, we have certain limitations, certain things we can't do, and that's it. And in this day and age, can't being politically correct, you might lose your job. Maybe it's a crazy world. That's all I can say. It's a crazy world. I'll say it again. It's a crazy world. You can't speak what the truth is, because then everyone and their mother gets offended. Who are you to say this? And it goes against my ethics and my. Yeah, that's what the Torah says. I could go, but people are very fragile. They got to ram an agenda down your throat. Like they'll say that's what we're doing, so they have a right to do that. Never seen anything like this in the history of man. Never. Yeah. Any other questions? I got any other questions before I turn into a turtle? All right, I'm gonna stop here. I do this every Sunday, 9 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, or orthodoxconversion.com. You can take a look at my YouTube channel, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism. There I got videos on the Torah portion of the week, Book of Leviticus. Also on what else do I have there? Q&As, controversial issues. Yeah, ethics of our fathers. You want to send me an email? RabbiChaimKaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. Wish everyone a good beginning of the day.